Okay, everybody, so today I'm going to talk about Fortune Camaros. I get this question a lot on social media. Which cars do I think are worth the most? How much is my car worth, etc. So today I'll talk about a few that are doing very well, some that I think you should pick up, and just in general, some cars I like. So for starters, I catch a lot of flack for this, but my personal favorite are the 93 to 97 Fortunes. It's just my personal preference. I think they look better. Um, Obviously, they're not powered by the almighty LS1 by any means. I, I personally think the LT1 is a respectable engine. I love them. I've had them. Um, so for me, the ultimate the ultimate fortune for me would be a 97 SS LT4. A very rare car. When you do come across one, they're usually very expensive as well. It's a very low production car, but I've always liked them. When I was growing up, the LS1 F bodies were the thing, and I could never afford one. I had an LT1, and then I ended up growing to like them anyway, just because I liked that body style. At first you don't really know. I guess one way to put it is you don't really know when you're a kid, like which one is the better of the two cars, which one's powered by the better engine. You just kind of say, wow, that looks awesome. And for me, it was the LT1 cars. So the 96 to 97 SSs, and the end all be all for me being the SSLT4. Another one I think is a really cool car, a 93 Indy Pace car. It's got the most 90s scheme you'll ever find, from the exterior paint to also the interior. The stitching and the coloring on the interior is just really wild and like super 90s. I've always liked those. They're actually a good pickup. Like one of them sold here, super clean car, 6,000 miles for 14 grand. That's, I think that's a pretty badass car for not a lot of money. Um, After that, obviously the 98 to 2002 cars are always going to be, or not always, but usually worth a little more just because they became the more sought after car, mostly because of the engine and the mods and how much power you can make on just a little bit of upgrading. Anything, obviously, SS is going to be the home run there. Even some of the like 1LE powered cars, or not powered cars, but the 1LE cars of that era are great pickups. You get a really good engine, and you get a bare bones car, and I think that's a good pickup if you can come across one. So these cars are trading back and forth in the super clean between 15 and 20. Obviously, there's some exceptions in there. A super clean, low mileage 2002 35th anniversary, all the bells and whistles. That's probably a $30,000 car still, regardless of it being in 2002. But I think that for me personally, what I see is I think that the fortunes are kind of in that weird limbo phase where they're not going to auction and getting tons and tons of money. You can still pick up a respectable car for sub $10,000. If you've got I want a street bruiser kind of a car, then you get on Craigslist or something, and you're easily finding them for the sub $10,000 ranges. Got some nicks and dings and some the sail panels peeling and a little bit of clear coat failure here and there, but you can still pick them up for a decent price. They're not astronomical yet. There are some that are. That being said, moving forward, I think the now and in the future, now being this is already kind of happening, that subset of fortune cars that were the GMMGs, the Berger SSs, the ZL1s, the Dick Harrell cars. I haven't ever seen a Dick Harrell car go for less, probably less than 100. Those cars are astronomical. They started out that way, and for good reason. It's a badass looking car. It's powered by a C5R engine. You know, they got all the bells and whistles on them cars, and it's really cool. You know, the Tom Henry SSs, all the GMG package cars that they did back in that time. Awesome cars, super hard to get a hold of. Collectors have long been, you know, storing them cars and not really letting them go. And when you do, it's going to cost you, but it's well worth the price in my opinion. So, you know, if you can afford one of those are a car not only collectors, but to, you know, roll into the car show and or drive around town, and you'll never see another one unless you're at some show or you're in an area where they're really popular, right? So, quick recap. For me personally, it's the 96, 97 SSs that are going to be, you know, the ones to buy, the ones to have. I would personally, I'm dying to have one. I've even got the poster here that you can't really see because I don't have it hung up yet. Um, just some other random cool cars like that 93 pace car, or, you know, the the 98 to 02, the SSs. I think the later ones are cooler. I always like the center mount exhaust. It's nothing special, it just looks cool, really. You know, they have those higher trim level cars had a little more horsepower to them. Otherwise, I think Fortunes right now are a really, really good place to be if you're looking to buy a Camaro and go have fun for, you know, a reasonably cheap dime. We're seeing some of the other cars that, you know, if you're an entry level enthusiast, you can't necessarily afford a brand new 6 Gen 1LE. And while that is a much better car in pretty much every sense of the term, um, not everybody can afford one. So if it were me in that position, I would personally go start browsing around, looking around for, you know, a decent mileage, decent condition 4th Gen Camaro. And for me, it wouldn't be, for me personally, it would be LT1. But if I ran across a, you know, a decent mile LS1 SS, you know, 99, say 99 or something, you're probably looking at 10 grand. If it's in pretty good shape and low miles, I would definitely look at picking one of those up. So, you know, quick recap, I just think that the 4th Gen market is in that weird limbo where even the really nice ones are only pulling in like 20 grand at an auction. So you can get you a pretty badass car for definitely less than 20 grand. You can still get you a really good car for less than 10 grand, in my opinion. So do some digging around, find one you like, whether it be the early or the late 4th Gens, and go from there. I think that's, right now, that's the place to be for a lot of people. So I think stick around. I'll do another video on 4th Gens pretty soon is my plan, because there's a lot more to talk about, that because I grew up around the 4th Gens, so I really like them and I really like talking about them, even though they're kind of right now a little bit of this redheaded stepchild of Camaros. So stick around and I'll have another video on one of those pretty soon. But you know, just those you know, 3 or 4 basic cars, I think where the money's at. Otherwise, you can still pick up one for relatively cheap at the moment.